Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is September 4th, Wednesday. We are on the Asian account. Because we have a special daily quest, we're going to do one game of the Tavern Brawl and then priest cards or hero powers. I don't think I want to struggle through doing 20 or what is that? Is that 20 or 30? Hero priest powers, so we'll re-roll that. Not a great roll, destroy 25 minions, priest cards, but whatever. And we're trying to get through all the news, and we had leftovers from Monday because we had leftovers from a week before Monday, in which my computer was just broken. Now it seems like my computer is working just fine and nice and quiet. So I've got everything set up the way I like it. We'll see how well it plays next time I try to launch something particularly demanding and see if it turns into a jet engine at that point and turns up all the fans. But right now just playing Hearthstone, which really isn't that visually demanding. Particularly for a 2080 RTX graphics card, it's nice and quiet, and this would be the least demanding game I would expect to play on a regular basis. So let's start going through the news. Komatsu has an article for the PC and Xbox One. The Ashen's DLC Nightmare Island launches November 6th. I haven't heard anything about Ashen's ever, or at least for a really long time. It's what kind of game? Well, I'd assume it's some kind of RPG. Ashen's is available for Xbox One and PC. It's coming to PS4. It's from Annapurna Interactive. I'm not sure if Annapurna Interactive is actually one of the companies that I've blacklisted because they did DMCA strikes, false DMCA strikes against people. So I'd have to do some research on that. The game itself, in fairness, looks fine. But I'd also need to do some research to see what happened with Ashen, that it would have come out and I've already forgotten about it. I imagine what happened is it's not that interesting of a game or well received game.
Around here?
No business of yours.
So I'm leaving myself with a lot of extra work. Let's see.
Job done.
Well, I see I just screwed up my deck because there were no duplicates in my deck up until this point. And now there are duplicates in my deck. So I'll have to pull out another Jade Idol before I don't have duplicates again. Komatsu has an article for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville has been announced. Founders Edition is available today. This is, I believe, the spiritual successor to the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare game series. Let's hope it doesn't have any horrible microtransactions in it and gross things like that. Particularly when you're seeing that this is a first-person shooter, team-based shooter style game, targeting what one would assume is kids, more than even most games do. Yeah. Well, the thing with that in particular is you're gonna have to just be careful about the Plants vs. Zombies series in general and not buy it until 6 months to a year afterwards, for the slight chance that it's going to add microtransactions into itself later. play Control here. And summon a Jade Golem. Next we have a game on Steam called Artificial Iridescence. Yeah, that's how you pronounce that. This looks like this is probably an asset flip game trying to sell itself as a visual novel. It also is getting tagged as an RPG game, but it doesn't look particularly good. It's also free to play, so the price I guess is right. It also has remote play on phones or tablets. I haven't even seen this before. I want to do some research on that because I've never seen that as a tag, and there's very few games that I know would even have something like that. The Jackbox Party Pack has something like that, remote play on phones and tablets. So I want to do some research here. Man, I keep saying I want to do some research. I've been so out of the loop because I've just been playing Control. I played and live streamed my recordings of the episodes for Control, and I've been doing that and basically nothing else for a week. Now that I get back to looking at the news, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do some more research. I want to look at this. This is actually intriguing. So this is a clear example to me to take note. I personally do like to see the video game news. I do want that. So if there was ever a thought, which I'm sure some people would make the argument, is just to say, just play Hearthstone, quit doing the video game news stuff. I don't think that works for me, because I'm personally interested, and I'm personally interested in looking at the games that come out on Steam, even if most of the games are garbage. Anyways, moving on, Gamatsu for the Switch, a traditional tactics NE is coming to Switch September 20th. This looks like this is probably an eShop simplistic game, like a strategy top-down dungeon crawler or something. Let's see, they're calling it a turn-based strategy. It's originally on the App Store, so it's a cell phone game. Yeah, from this one screenshot alone, it doesn't look particularly interesting.
Free of that blasted tower!
Beetle berries, my favorite.
Next to you!
Your turn.
Behold!
The end begins.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Ancient Battle Successors. Let's see what the screenshots look on this. It looks like it's a war simulator strategy game. Looks like something that would have come out in the early 90s. For what it's showing, it's not terrible if it was a 90s game, but it's terrible as a almost 2020 game. $8.99. There's no name recognition. I don't recognize the developer or publisher. 7 missions in the tutorial campaign, 6 wars of the successors campaigns. It looks like in total you're barely getting 40, maybe 50 missions, which probably means the missions are pretty simplistic. Looking at this, how big these icons are, also it feels like this is designed to be played on a tablet or a cell phone originally. Like, you would not have buttons this big if you're using a mouse. Shuffle more jades into the deck.
Try one.
It is your
Try more! Behold!
Game Sutra has an article here. Microsoft partners with SK Telecom for 5G game streaming in Korea. Interesting. I could see 5G if it actually becomes the real standard, which we're still kind of working on 4G at this point becoming a standard. And let's face it, 3G LTE was never really a standard. That was adopted in the United States, at least. But I could see in Korea, South Korea particularly, them being able to adopt new mobile technology and get it up and off the ground a lot earlier and quicker. Yep. But video game wise, I don't think that's going to change anything that happens in the United States anytime soon, particularly the United States. I wouldn't be surprised if 5G came to Mexico and Canada way before it came to the US. TechRaptor has an article here for the Blair Witch reviews, spooky and scary sans startles. I've heard good and bad things about the Blair Witch game. I'm still kind of 50-50 on it. They say it's great. Blair Witch is an instant classic in terms of... let's go ahead and win here.
Scry more.
Tell me the truth.
Blair Witch is an instant classic in terms of horror game. It pulls off a tension building, forces the player to creep themselves out, and does it all with a minimum of jump scares. The story alone is a reason to play. If you're brave enough, pros are truly intense and creepy. Bullet is adorable, Bullet being the dog, involving stories with multiple endings. Puzzles are challenging but doable. Cons, few times the tension building drags on, and it is possible to get lost. Alright, I think I'm willing to put Blair Witch on the follow list. So that's all we needed to do with the Tavern Brawl. And we may play more. This Tombs of Terror opens in 2 weeks. I assume what that means is not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after next Tuesday, today being Wednesday. It will be the day that this single player expansion happens. And I guess I'll make an effort to stream that as quickly as possible too. Otherwise, we just need to play priest cards and destroy minions, and then we're done with the Asian account too. And so if we get done with everything today, since I have so much news, we'll try to grind through some of it, but once we hit the hour 15 mark, I think then that will be the point to end also. But we'll try to burn through it all right now. Gamatsu has an article, PC, PS4, and Switch. Toho Azure Reflections is coming September 19th, alongside with a free update for the PS4 and Switch. Free update adds a new mode and 2 new bosses. Still really haven't wrapped my head around what the Toho Project games are, or in general, other than most of them seem to be anime, which is in a bullet hell style game, but not all of them.
Victory.
And yeah, this looks like the best graphics I've seen so far for one of these types of games, but I'm still very much not interested in playing any bullet hell style games. It's just not a genre that I want to play. Let's see. We haven't seen news like this in a long time. For the PS4 alone, the romance visual novel Hatsuyuki Sakura is coming December 19th in Japan. And here you can see it is an anime character arguably in a school uniform, which has never been a PS4 problem. It has a serial rating, but the serial rating is in Japanese, so I can't read it. Let's go ahead and just squelch that guy real quick. So, no telling whether this romance visual novel has any nudity or sexual content type things in it, but almost certainly being a romance thing, it's going to have at least some dialogue like that.
Like to play with fire?
And apparently this game was originally launched on the PC in 2012, then the Vita in 2017, then Android in 2018, and iOS in 2018. So the Hatsuyuki Sakura series game has some relevancy, so probably should do some research. Man, I keep saying that just to make sure this is one of the games that is maybe on the fall list or on the wish list if it has enough reviews. It's an old enough PC game that if it's on Steam, it should have enough reviews to be considered immediately. Next, we have a game on Steam called Infinite Skyline. It's one of these. Basically, it's an asset flip fly around game. It doesn't look terrible, but is it good enough to deserve to be followed and considered? Well, watching the video, it's not that bad. And it's not like there's been a ton of competition here, because there's been a lot of bad flying around games. This is early access, $4.99, English full audio. I'm gonna put this on the fall list. There's a chance this turns into something worth playing. But then there is also a chance that it's kind of nothing. The comparison would be, is it as good as something like Race the Sun or something else along those lines? So yeah, let's see what does YouTube, what does not YouTube but Steam even suggest in comparison to it? Yeah, their suggestions still are pretty awful. That not a single racing flying around game was even recommended in comparison.
Whispers everywhere.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Pester Quest, which is tagged as a visual novel RPG. That being said, it seems like it looks like it's a troll game. Apparently it's also episodic. There is almost an art style you could say this is, this washed out white lack of detail content as an art style. It almost has like a web comic feel to it. I love to see Western visual novels not just try and ape Eastern anime looking visual novels. It says it's full audio in English, which would be interesting too. There's this other game called Hive Swap Friend Sim, which I feel like we looked at this game before too. So it seems like this is a whole bundle of visual novels. So I'm going to do some research on that and put both of these I'm going to put both Pester Quest and Hive Swap on the follow list and give it some consideration, particularly since it already has a very positive rating review. So that there might be an example, one of those rare examples of an actual hidden gem on Steam. Okay.
Your rage sustains me.
And silence.
Some peace and quiet!
Double. And kill.
Job's done.
And in the turn. Gamma Sutra has an article here. How Remedy harnessed the eternal beauty of brutalism in the shape of control. I fully disagree with this. I don't think brutalist architecture and what it was shown in Control, having just played all of Control, I don't think it's worth mentioning or saying that it's beautiful. I think brutalism in its inherent design is designed to not be beautiful or interesting or look good at all. I think it's designed to be as boring and drab and, for lack of a better term, professional as possible. It's designed to have sharp edges. It's designed to have sharp lines. It's designed to not look good, and probably pretty easy to build a building that looks like brutalism. Although, if you look at most houses, we have a better standard when you just put up plaster on walls and paint them. Like, that works perfectly fine, and it's just kind of boring. And then you let the instead of the house builder and the architect decide how a building is going to look, you just say, we've set you up for success, where you can hang pictures, put plants, or paint the walls however you want it, without us being the final advocate or final judge as far as what the walls will look like. I think Remedy probably would have done a lot better, since they were doing a lot of effort to use ray tracing, if they went with a minimalistic architecture style, where it's just a lot of white and black, kind of like Portal. You know, that was Portal is minimalism, Control is brutalism. They probably would have done better if they had just done minimalism too. Or you could have certainly had some of the parts of the floors and the rooms be brutalistic, and that would look like, oh, this is what the building is supposed to look like. But there was no reason in Control that you couldn't have walked through a doorway and that door then opened up to like a beach or a desert or a forest. And even if it was a forest that was locked inside of a brutalist architecture area on the outside, there was a lot of different things that could have been done. Or you could walk through a door and it could have been an Art Deco style or any other kind of architecture or art style whatsoever. The only reason time never plays any role in Control, and it's to its own detriment, is the fact that Remedy's previous game, it was all about time. It would have made a lot of sense if you walked through some areas and the offices looked like they were from the 60s, and then you went through another area and it looked like it was 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. If you walked through an area and it looked even futuristic, that would have been really good. But they couldn't do that because they had so little budget, it seems like, for Control, that they were copying and pasting elements of 3D models like crazy. You just have to look at the bathrooms for that. you could have easily closed all the doors to the bathrooms and just locked them, and it would have been fine. There was no reason for us to have to walk through bathrooms and 95% of the time not see anything or have any kind of collectible in the bathroom at all, and then all you see is just bathrooms that don't have mirrors, bathrooms that don't have soap, bathrooms that don't play any role whatsoever. It's not even like you could go and hide in the bathroom when you're being attacked and that would save you, because often when you walk through any doorway, even a doorway to a small area like the bathroom, often the game would cause enemies to respawn as soon as you walked back out. So many times I would leave an area to explore, and then as soon as I walk back to the main area, I'm in yet another randomly generated fight, which I definitely did not appreciate. Yeah, but brutalism, I'd have to do more research to look at brutalistic architecture and see if there was more that could have been done, but it was a bad premise to set yourself on. There's a reason why no other game up until this point has tried to adopt brutalism as an art style in its level design. It definitely doesn't feel like like it felt when you were in Rapture, for instance, where that art style felt very realistic and very well thought out and very appealing. Well, even when you were in Bioshock Infinite and you were seeing mostly just colonial style architecture, I guess colonial might be the best way to describe it, or just regular buildings for lack of a better description. Like, even that felt better and more consistent. Anyways, moving on, we have a game on Steam called Singled Out, which seems to be a find the person based on these traits game, where it would sort of randomly generate people and then you'd have to click on it. There might be a game here, but this also kind of feels like something that would work better on a cell phone. $1.49. There was a game called Fingered that came out a long time ago, about a year, that was a similar style of game. It says 10 achievements, it only wants $1.50. I think this deserves to be on the fall list. As it says, it's a game jam game, so it was a simplistic concept, and because of its simplistic concept, I feel like they did what they were supposed to do. And it's not so simplistic a game that it's just like a tapper or clicker. There's actually some skill to it, so I'll put it on the fall list. But yeah, just because it's on the fall list doesn't mean it's actually going to make it to the wish list. It would be a hard argument to say, hey, let's spend $1.50 on this game and then almost certainly only make a 30-minute spotlight on it when I could do something else.
I just want some peace and quiet!
Shields up!
She's here! She's here!
Let's see. Am I trying to kill enemies or am I trying to win? Probably a little bit of both. Moving on, Gematsu has an article for the PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. Hyria Studios announces the multiplayer shooter Rogue Company. We saw one image of that, but Gematsu is doing us one better by actually showing us a trailer. Like, Rogue Company is a pretty generic term. Here you have people skydiving to land, like in Fortnite, so clearly this is inspired by the Fortnite landing system. And then we have a collection of people with different guns. I don't know if they're going to be hero classes or if it's just going to be you have different loadouts. The characters look fine. It doesn't seem like it's doing too much different than some of the other Fortnite-like clones. So almost certainly this is too little too late as far as releasing a game like this. Yeah, I have heavy suspicions that this is not a game that would succeed, just because it's chasing after a fad that's already old at this point. Moving on, Gematsu has an article for the Switch. Call of Cthulhu launches October 8th. I don't remember anything about Call of Cthulhu, and it came out October 2018, so I don't think it was particularly that great of a game. Was Call of Cthulhu the one where none of the buildings had street signs and you had to wander around and it was glitchy and kind of grindy? I think it was. Well, it got a lot of reviews, but you do have to remember that the mainstream video game journalists in particular are super obsessed with Cthulhu-esque, Lovecraft-esque stories. RPG, maybe there's been some patch to Call of Cthulhu that makes it a little bit better of an offering. Where are we as far as daily quests now? Yeah, destroy minions, play priest cards. A couple more games will be done. Get victories if we can. Next we have a game on Steam called Crafting Block World, which is just a direct Minecraft clone. You don't get too many of these anymore. And yeah, it looks like garbage. $1.79. English only. Don't need to say anything more about that. Next we have a game on Steam called Elite Shooter 3D Shooter, which is a low effort name, and if you're gonna not spend any effort on your name, then you probably didn't spend any effort on your game. It looks like it's an asset flip, like mobile port, and they're doing a blurring effect so that they can just show you action upon action upon action, which isn't a terrible thought, but it does introduce the idea that the game just glitches and does this blurring effect in actual gameplay, or that the game is actually incredibly boring at times because you're running around looking for enemies. $1.79, single player only, lots of language support it claims. That, of course, not making it to the fall list. I don't know how many people this is going to affect, but TechRaptor has an article. Naughty Dog has shut down the multiplayer servers for its PS3 games. So, if you were still trying to play like Uncharted multiplayer or things like that, it's impossible now. I guess you'd have to hack it and have private servers at this point. What's sad about that in particular is Naughty Dog's is the makers of the Uncharted and Last of Us series. I would have liked to see the next story I heard about Naughty Dog is that they are going to re-release their games on PC, and we haven't seen any indication that there's any chance of that happening. Although maybe if they're shutting down the resources and the money they're spending on the PS3 servers, maybe those resources are getting spent to PC ports, but that is blind hope with no evidence whatsoever. But I would really like to see that. I'd love to play the Uncharted series. I'd love to play the Last of Us series on PC. I think a lot of people would, particularly people like me who were Xbox gamers in the last generation. Gamma Sutra has a similar story. This fall's Mac OS update in support for all 32-bit apps, which means the relatively small collection of Apple games that were out there, that were 32-bit games, are now going to not be playable on modern Mac operating systems. I don't know if that really means much other than that. But there is a possibility that there's going to be this growing gap, because it may get harder and harder to find the right hardware to run an old version of a Mac OS to run an old Mac OS app. So as time just moves forward, you might hit a point where you absolutely cannot run a game because there's no hardware to run the operating system to run the game on. You could also run into issues where emulation does not correct for that, because it's just too difficult to emulate a Mac OS operating computer. But relatively speaking, as far as video games are concerned, and I think even office productivity apps are concerned, there was relatively very few things that ran on Mac OS that didn't have a Windows version that still runs perfectly fine. At some point, I guess Windows 10 might get rid of Windows 32-bit support, but I have a question. I suspect that would be a really long time from now, and probably never.
Your rage sustains me.
Job's done.
Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Addams Family is coming to spook a phone near you. This really is out of nowhere, and this definitely is not the Addams Family I remember. Somebody clearly got the license to it and decided to make some kind of tie-in game. What is it? Apparently a new animated feature is releasing later this year. I hadn't heard anything about this. Meanwhile, if this is a tie-in to a movie video game, it probably isn't too interesting a game. It seems like what it is like a Simpson Tapped Out style game, a home restoration type game where you decorate, and there's probably all kinds of weight timers and such on it.
I must consider.
I thought the Addams Family house in the TV series was cool and all, and in the movies that came out in the 90s, the house was cool and all, but I don't think it's so interesting that you would really want to play a computer game or a cell phone game of it. And I have no desire to watch that animated show the way that looks. That's really not how I would want that animated. That looks like, anytime you see those rounded 3D CGI characters, you know it's probably not going to be a very good quality product. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Magic the Gathering Arena Historic Play will bring back old cards at a price. New format called Magic the Gathering Historic Play is going to be added to the newest digital version of Magic the Gathering, but it comes with a catch. The cards are going to cost twice as much in that new format. If you haven't played Magic the Gathering Arena, this game is a free-to-play digital version of the classic collectible card game. It's been in beta for a while and is expected to launch sometime before the year is out, but that doesn't mean supposed to say doesn't mean that the developers aren't launching some new features. Alright, well, we could skip down here. Cards are going to cost twice if you want to play something like Black Lotus, and I wouldn't be surprised specifically if you actually have to do a lot more if you want to play Black Lotus. I am not interested in moving to Magic the Gathering Arena, particularly knowing that it's owned by Hasbro, particularly knowing that Hasbro was just bought by Disney. Surprise, surprise, I didn't even mention that since it was a video game released. You get into this weird situation where Hasbro online games are all in danger of getting canceled because Disney doesn't like making video games in-house, and Hasbro now is kind of in-house. But Magic the Gathering itself is not the game I want to play. Which is, it's stupid because I'm saying I am going to play the Marvel game, and Disney owns the Marvel game too, so I'm making a really stupid, pointless argument here. But yeah. The bigger thing is just I don't want to play Magic the Gathering. I don't like the people that I played with when I played Magic the Gathering back during Ice Age when it was a big thing. I don't like how greedy Magic the Gathering was. I don't like how the game plays. I don't feel like it's majorly improved with its changes and adding of Planeswalker. I've tried some of their other digital games and they've always been terrible and not worth the time. It takes too long to play a Magic the Gathering game. And we're doing pretty good on Hearthstone today, but normally even Hearthstone takes forever to get the daily quest done. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Starbreeze is seeking to extend its reconstruction period for a third time.
This place is scary.
Reconstruction being just a different form of bankruptcy. So they're just probably trying to stretch it out, trying to negotiate better deals as much as possible. And frankly, courts are fine to extend things over and over again, so I wouldn't be surprised if as long as they can make a somewhat legitimate argument, I wouldn't be surprised if they get approved from that.
I got this.
I can't do that.
Darn it. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Red Dead Online Frontier Pursuits arrives September 10th. If anybody is still playing Red Dead Online, I would say that even compared to GTA Online, Red Dead Online is a major failure compared to just an average online game. It's a pretty big failure. The ESA put out another tweet that they're apparently going to do this more often, or maybe I just recently started following the ESA. 29 essential facts about computer and video game industry. So there's some information here that I would, on an average stream, probably go through all these numbers. Here you can see male and female gamers. 54% of gamers are male, 46% are female. Average woman is 34 years old. Average male is 32 years old. Which is to say that even though there's slightly more males playing, they stop playing games as they get a little bit older. Probably to work more hours, or raise a family, or seek out seek out a spouse.
Let the pain speak to me.
So, yeah. I don't think there's anything particularly here that breaks it down into 71% of gamers are casuals. Play casual games. 60% play smartphone games. The next highest classification of games are action games at 53%, which shows a major diversity in the different types of games people play. Apparently, allegedly 90% of parents pay attention to the games their child plays. Of course, pay attention is a nebulous term to say the least. Like, pay attention once, or every time, or every second of what they're doing while they're playing, or just looking at what they're playing every time you walk through the room. Alright, next we have a game on Steam called Real Flight 9, which looks like another flight simulator game. And if I was going to put the other flight simulator game on the fall list, I think this one deserves at least a chance. On the other hand, it requires third-party DRM. It's $100. It's a third-party account activation. There's VR in it. Says it supports a bunch of languages in the interface. I'm not that big of a flight simulation fan. I'm not really a flight simulation fan at all. I'm not willing to even start to negotiate at $100 for a game. So they've priced themselves out of a sale as far as I'm concerned.
Your rage sustains me.
Let's come over here and play these cards. We're not gonna survive or anything, but might as well do it. Yeah, we haven't even gotten to any of the games that were left over from Monday. TechRaptor has an article here on new sets and tournament kit for the Naruto Boruto card game. I just wanted to mention this. It's not video game related, but I didn't know there was a Naruto Boruto card game. I mean, I imagine there's quite a few card games in Japan, but I didn't know that any of them had made any headway to the West as far as something that people would bother to translate and bring to the West. Is Naruto and Boruto still popular? Like, apparently it is. Alright, so at this point I'm gonna play Paladin, Ranked, and I'm gonna play a little slower and try to just get through all this news because we've done all the daily quests for all 3 accounts. Gamma Sutra has an article. It's a blog, Why You May Be Underpricing Your Video Game. I feel like with just reading the title, this is probably an example of them saying, your prices should be higher on Steam. Let's see. Like, you don't feel like your game deserves a higher price as the first in this listicle. You think your game will sell more copies at a lower initial price point. It totally will. Particularly if you're interested in sales in the first 6 months, which most publishers are very interested in that first 6 months. There's a weird implied link between price and quality. It's not a weird implied link between price and quality. There is a direct implied link between price and quality on all products. And to be fair, it's often BS and not true. I will grant you that there are plenty of products out there that sell themselves like they are a lot better than their previous than other things. Tide laundry detergent is a great example of that. Higher priced, it's not probably any better than any other laundry soap. There is something about perceived value to be concerned with in any product. But then also you have things like Chanel handbags and men's watches and things like that. The next thing on the list is your geographical location isn't giving you a good perspective into world pricing, which is almost an argument that actually your game should be more expensive because somewhere else in the world your people are willing to pay more.
Converting stored
darn
energy.
it.
That minion now turn to get ready.
That's a double-edged sword. If you live in like Tokyo, Japan, and you're used to paying like $200 for a single video game, yeah, your perception then is your game should be $200, and that's very much what happens in Japan in general, is that a lot of anime and video games get overpriced. So yeah, you have to do market research. You have to get the right price for the area you're selling in. But that doesn't inherently translate into you're always underpricing your game. It also half the time means you're overpricing your game. And I think a lot of video games are really, really overpriced, particularly when I have like, am I up to 3,000 games on Steam now? Or just over 1,000? I don't even know.
Someone injured?
I have at least 1,000 games on Steam. Almost all of them were bought during Steam sales. Almost all of them are at least 50% off. So for me personally, I am much more willing to wait until something goes on sale than pay the full price. The only game I've ever bought brand new in the past 4 or 5 years was maybe the Talos Principle. No, I think I got that free.
Photonic burst. The battle.
Yeah, I can't think of one. There may have been 1 or 2 games I bought brand new in an experiment to make my YouTube channel succeed more. Everything else, 5-year-old game, 10-year-old game, 20-year-old game, get it on sale during the Steam sale, do the retrospectives. It's you don't make enough money as a new YouTuber, let me tell you, to be able to afford to buy brand new games and play them. You definitely would need to be either independently rich, not even wealthy, but completely filthy rich, or working some other job to buy all the brand new games and play them at the price people are asking, which are way too high. This article doesn't go into a number 5 at all. I can't help but feel like Gamma Sutra, which is kind of known for circle jerking and supporting the video game developers, particularly the ones that complain about Steam, I can't help but feel like this article is particularly just, again, self-congratulatory pats on the back, like, yeah, you're right, your game should be higher, it should be more expensive. Let's make games on the Epic Store more expensive and not use Steam. That's the world that Gamma Sutra wants to create, based on several of their articles I've seen, is that they want people to pay more money for games, they want them on the Epic Store instead of Steam, and they want all the games that they support and all the creators that they support to get all the coverage, whereas everybody else should be completely deplatformed and not allowed on Steam or anywhere else to sell their games. So they don't even want competition, which people certainly could bang their fist on the table about how competition lowers prices. I wouldn't make that argument, because very rarely have I seen competition lower the prices much on anything in the United States in my entire lifetime. In theory, that's supposed to happen. But that theory, I don't think is provable. I think that theory is wrong. If anything, we should have government regulation. Let's just go full socialist on it, and let's regulate the prices of all video games down to $50 or $40. Have a set standard of how much video games could cost per hour of gameplay, or per some kind of ratings board, where they rate it based on how long entertaining gameplay happens. That would be a huge cat and mouse game in which game developers would put in terrible grindy sections, but you could do it. You could have people that are going thumbs up, thumbs down while they're playing the game, and whenever they go thumbs up, that's the time frame that would allow them to charge, and whenever the thumbs down, that's when people say, oh, this is a bad part of the game, they don't appreciate this. It'd be a weird way to set the prices for anything, but it would be convoluted and corrupt. Oh, get out. But you could start simply. You could say video games can cost no more than $100. If you want to sell something for more than $100 that's a video game, then you'd have to just cut that content out and sell it in the next game. So all games would be set to say we are only going to make $100 worth of content at most per game, and then we'll just work on the sequel. So no more DLC, no more season passes, no more of any of that. That's just in the next game, and that would work better than the system we have. Anyways, I'm trying to get through the news and I'm ranting here. TechRaptor has an article: Conan Exiles Blood and Sand pack debuts new arenas and new weapons. Conan Exiles is not the most recently announced Conan game, I believe. It is the second most recent Conan game. Unfortunately, all the Conan games seem to be moderately awful, and Conan Exiles, if I recall correctly, has been in beta, in development, or just getting updates and out of beta for a couple years now, and it still does not look like a game worth playing. Next, we have a game on Steam called Laser Vashin, which I suspect is just a Asteroids clone with a bunch of distracting neon graphics. Yep, that looks exactly what that is. $6.99, English full audio, $36, 36 achievements. That's not making it to the list. Let's see, TechRaptor has an article here. Me Close Studios, I've never heard of this, and Modern Wolf announce Out There Oceans of Time. So this is a game, I guess, to get hyped about. It looks like it might be a weird no iris in your eye character with in space. So apparently there was a game called Out There before this, and this is a kind of remake. Let's see. I guess I need to do some research and see if Out There originally came to Steam and what the reviews are on that. Otherwise, it's a game I've never heard of, and a game I can't be too interested in. Well, TechRaptor has an article. Despite the fact that the Epic Store has basically no features at the moment, nor is getting any anytime soon. Borderlands 3 will get preloading on the Epic Game Store after all. I think it's pretty necessary that happens. They're saying it's complicated. We've released support for file preloading which is sufficient for some games, but we aren't sure if it's up to the demands for a blockbuster like Borderlands. It's pretty easy to do preloading on a game. It's not that hard, depending on what level of security you want. What you can do is you could simply not include the exe executable and have all of the other content available there, or you could have every file missing a portion of its files so that it's corrupted, and thus you couldn't pull any information, any art assets or audio assets of the game until it's ready to launch and you get that final 10%. Or you could encrypt all of it and then have an encryption key, which then it would be unlikely in a short time that somebody would be able to unencrypt a file that's encrypted, although that would be very CPU intensive to unencrypt it.
Reporting for duty.
So there's an easy way, there's a hard way, there's a really hard way. You are dealing with PCs, so people would be able to access the files and do something almost certainly with it, but what that something is can swing vastly between very little to very much. Anyways, moving on, we have the Spyro Reignited Trilogy on Steam. That's already on my following list. It's already rated positively, so I don't see a real reason why not to just put it on the wish list right now. There's no reason not to. I totally would play Spyro Reignited. This also solves any problem if trying to find or play the original Spyro games on PC. $39.99 is a little expensive. A bunch of language support that I actually believe they actually do have. I'd love to play Spyro. I probably would get maybe a little bit bored with Spyro halfway through it, particularly if you're trying to play the entire trilogy in a row. But it looks like it's a kid-friendly game. I'm always looking for kid-friendly games. It looks like it's a collectibles game. I'm always a sucker for a collectibles game. It's a fly-around game that might be a bit of a problem, but I don't think it's that big of a problem. Let's see, YouTube put out a blog thing. The 4 R's of responsibility. Part 1, remove harmful content. Apparently 17,000 YouTube 17,000 YouTube channels were banned. So it's remove content that violates our policy, raise up authoritative voices for when people are looking for breaking news and information, which is to basically say they're going to promote, and we've known they've been doing this, YouTube has, they've been promoting people who are like CNN and well, I don't think Fox News, but CNN, MSNBC, John Oliver, things like that have gotten major promotion as far as how they report the news, whether they do it comedically or seriously, doesn't seem to matter one bit. And then anybody else that tries to report the news gets demonetized. Reward trusted eligible creators and artists, which is basically send all the money to people they like, and then reduce the spread of content that brushes right up against the policy of the line, which again, a lot of this, if you read it for the way it is implemented, or it seems to be implemented, a lot of this comes straight up against, if you have YouTube wrongthink, if you're not a flaming SJW, if you're not reporting things exactly how YouTube wants them to be reported, you will get demonetized, removed, or have your entire channel deleted. See, they're kind of proud of it, and this is kind of the wrong time to be proud of what you're saying, because it sounds so totalitarian. Over 100,000 videos were removed, 17,000 channels were terminated. In all fairness, 17,000 channels being terminated might not be anything at all. It might be 17,000 Russian bot troll channels. And then twice as many comments removed. And like the comments are really doing anything at all to affect people's opinions. They want to remove content before it's widely viewed. Yeah, and so they put out this blog like it's a good thing, but they didn't even bother to try to do this. Wow, I haven't seen this before. You are currently offline. You must reconnect before you can proceed. However, you can still access your collection offline. Reconnect. How did I just go offline? That's weird. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Gearbox launches a Homeworld 3 crowdfunding campaign with $1 million with a $1 goal. Really? Is this a typo, or did they literally start a fig campaign with a $1 goal? With only a $1 funding goal. It is naturally already surpassed the goal in just a few days. Why Gearbox would go to Fig and ask for crowdfunding for Homeworld 3, I don't know. Does that mean that 2K is not supporting the publishing of Homeworld 3 and they're just trying to get money, or is something else going on here?
Thank you.
I wouldn't be surprised if 2K decided to part ways with. I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to part ways with Gearbox, with Randy Pitchford causing them so much trouble. So we may see after everything has been released and said as far as Borderlands 3, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, actually, we're not funding any more games with Gearbox. If Hearthstone had not fixed itself, then I would have just covered the news consistently, since we have so much left. Gamma Sutra has an article. Pokemon Masters has topped 10 million downloads in 4 days, and that was yesterday, I guess. Pokemon Masters, I hear it's really good when it's not buggy. It does seem like it is trying to bring in a more anime style, and thus more anime fans in particular, towards the Pokemon universe, which Pokemon is an anime, but it's always been like a kiddie, slightly different animated looking show, comic book, video game. So it'd be more accurate to say Pokemon Masters is adapting the moe style that is most prevalent in anime right now, with slightly shorter, younger looking, cuter looking anime characters. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and Rogue may have been leaked for the Switch. Well, that was announced, so this article is now irrelevant, since we already know that information has been confirmed. Here we have a game on Steam called Something for Someone Else, which looks like it is a low effort visual novel adventure game. Yeah, I don't think even if this game played amazingly well, you would convince me to want to play a game that is a stick figure character on a brown paper bag that's crumpled up. Yeah. This is a free game. Doesn't look like it's a student project. This is one of those, it's from a game jam, and it's, this is a mental health game talking about how I have mental health problems as a game developer. Often the game developers that say they have mental health programs haven't even made a video game up until that point. It's like, or they've made something super simplistic that would have put them under no stress whatsoever. I guess that is just the identity politics SJW-ness of video game developers and the colleges that teach that mentality, is that to say, oh, I have mental problems, oh, I'm so depressed at the day you graduate from college. Regardless, something for someone else is a garbage looking game, and that's all that really needs to be said about it. It's not something I want to cover. Next we have Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, which is something I would want to look at, but oddly it is mostly negative, and it is $19.99, which is cheap. Censored Gaming, not Censored Gaming, that's a YouTube channel, Censored Content fan group on Steam, says they added a skirt to the Siren Summon. Riona's outfit shows less cleavage. Release info, patch, none yet. Picture of censored content comparison below. Read here. Let's see. So let's jump back into another game. So here we have a picture of what is, I guess, a higher cut on the under shirt.
I will fight with honor.
And then here's the PlayStation 1 version of the game. This is what the siren looked like then, this is what it looks like then. So it's not a major amount of censorship, but you are running into an issue where you are censoring what would have been a beloved game in Final Fantasy VIII, I think, unless Final Fantasy VIII is actually the one nobody likes, which maybe it is. I don't recognize any of these characters. Let's see what the negative reviews are, if this is a review bomb. Keep getting errors, the game doesn't save my achievements. Not only did they just update the mobile, not even every model is updated. So apparently there was a mobile version of the game, and this remastered release is a update of the mobile done extremely poorly by Square Enix, as Square Enix is falling apart. So yeah, I'll put this on the fall list because it's historically relevant, but I think if I just wait a couple of years, Square Enix will fall out of business, go bankrupt, and I won't have to play any of the Final Fantasy games. Like, I seriously think I might be able to just stretch for time and not have to play any of them. Meanwhile, if I was to go just and search Final Fantasy VIII and play the original game, there you go. Here's Final Fantasy VIII on Steam, which is mostly positive in the last 30 days. It's on my wish list, so why not just play the old game? Like, why bother to have that as an option? In fact, why did I even bother to put that on the fall list when we could just put it on the ignore list too? So buyer beware, don't buy Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. If you want to play Final Fantasy VIII, which is, maybe is a big if, just play the original game, which is available on Steam. Clearly Square Enix is just trying to double dip on the sales there. Next we have a game on Steam called No Exit. Let's skip ahead on this video. Looks like it's a top-down roguelike game with dark screenshot syndrome. 59 cents discounted. I don't see anything interesting here. I'm getting win streaks over here because people are conceding. TechCrafter had the article Nintendo Direct coming tomorrow with info on Pokemon and Luigi's Mansion. We don't really need to see that, but that does go to show I have not gotten anywhere close to covering any of the old information. TT Games, or Warner Brothers, has announced Lego Star Wars Battle, which lets you enter the Brick Arena. It's a new cell phone game. I don't know if it really is being made by TT Games, though. It probably would be. It seems like it is just the fighting elements of Lego games in mobile with perhaps some grinding to get items. Maybe eventually they'd put even in microtransactions to buy certain outfits. It doesn't sound like it's a particularly good game, though. Without the platforming, without the storylines in a Lego game, you're not going to have much of a good experience, in my opinion.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Pixel Monster Survival, which is just a Minecraft clone garbage. $1.79 discounted, says it has English full audio. Of course that's not making it to the fall list. Next, for like the third time, I have Children of Morta listed here. I think that was a game it's already on my fall list, so I don't know why I opened it yet again, other than I guess it's just catching my eye every single time. Like, I swear I'm not trying to promote the game. I have no idea if the game's good or not. Next we have a game on Steam called Sleep Paralysis, Mystery of the Mountain Village. Looks like this is maybe good, maybe bad. Like, because we're seeing glitches and we're seeing video. So this might be a interesting horror style game, or this might not. It's hard to tell. So many asset flips have come out that it becomes. It seems like you spend a lot of time dealing with your lantern. Alright, let's look at the screenshots. Dark screenshots with a lantern, making them slightly better. Asset flip environments that don't look quite good enough. And blurry images. Early access, $3.59, English and Chinese, but then it says it's ready for 10. I'm going to be generous and say following, but honestly, I don't think I will follow. I'm going to put it on the follow list just to get removed. I think the ESA tweeted this article from Game Rant. I've never heard of Game Rant, so forging a path for female esports professionals. Seems like maybe there's an article here or not. There is an argument I think that needs to be addressed as far as any kind of athletic professional, including esports professionals, and that's that when you're in a field that's particularly aggressive, you run into people that are particularly rude, and so you're going to have thick skin, or you're going to have to implement a extremely draconian set of behaviors that are allowed at all times by esports people and athletes in general. And we've never been able to really address that successfully with like football players or rugby players or soccer players or any other field, with perhaps the exception of the extremely draconian rules of billiards. And really all it boils down to is fines, and people hate fines, or they hate athletes complaining about getting fined. Well, we're on a win streak, so that's good. Next we have a game on Steam called Impossible, which looks like it was ported from something else because it's 4:3 ratio. And it looks like an NES game. Doesn't look terrible as an NES game, but it's not a recognizable NES game, so I don't know why I would want to play it. $4.79 is a little too expensive for what you're showing me. English with full audio, which I seriously doubt that's true. Like, do you really even have the right to claim full audio if you're making a game that looks and plays like an NES game, where at best you're going to have one scream of pain as he dies in the entire game, or like one Sega type logo at the beginning of the game? TechRaptor has an article here. Golf with your friends blast off with a space themed update. I'm not sure if Golf with your friends is the best crazy golf game out there, but I guess it is probably one of the ones that is still getting supported, so there's something to be interested about that. Interestingly, actually, it's still labeled as early access and is from Team 17, so they're working on it, and they have a little bit of credibility, so I think they deserve that. Let's see, history. Closed the wrong tab. That was a waste. Wasn't paying attention enough. See, next we have a game on Steam called Pew Pew Rocket, which is just a Galaga clone with explosive neon distracting lights. $1.59 English full audio. Nothing there. I really should have curated the games so that I could make more progress than I'm making right now. Next we have a game on Steam called Foodie Bear. This actually looks like somebody tried to animate this. It does look like it is just a platformer, with perhaps the idea of the bear gets fatter and slower as he eats more food, and that might be an issue. So I'm because I'm being generous right now, I'll put this on the follow list. $1.19, English and Chinese. It might be that this is a moderately cheap Chinese product, but it might be that it's just a medium concept type game that is a medium quality, which medium quality would be an improvement over most cheap Chinese products. Next we have a game called VQD, which looks bad. Looks like it's very solid color palette platformer, and the only thing that seems to be unique about this is that the world shifts left and right, which I don't think anybody wants that. Getting motion sick for no reason. Bunch of language support, 22 achievements, selling discounted for $4.49.
Access denied.
Reporting for duty.
Next we have a game on Steam called Crazy Critters Combat Cats, made in, I believe that was a Unity logo. Looks like a platformer cat versus cat type game. Early access $1.19, English, single player and multiplayer, English only. Yeah, I don't see anything here. It looks like it's a poor replica of a Worms game like Worms World Party. Game Citra has the same article. Gearbox launches Homeworld 3 crowdfunding campaign with $1 goal. We don't need to talk about that again.
Presence offends me.
Here we have a game called Nebula that might be something. It claimed it was ESRB rated, but I am questioning that. It's doing the whole fading out to hide things. It looks like it's a puzzle platforming game, adventure game. Let's look at the screenshots. There might be something here, there might not. Seems like it's going for some wild art styles. Put it on the follow list. $5.99, bunch of languages. We'll see how many people buy it and actually review it. Meanwhile, over here.
Reporting for duty. To battle! Last warning! To battle!
Let's take our victory while we can. Yeah, I think just now we've hit the games that were left. Let's not break the streak. Let's just keep going until I stop winning, to say the least. Let's not break the streak. Let's keep playing. Next, we have a game on Steam called Adventure Slime. It doesn't look great. It's from Digipin. It's a student project, so I do want to evaluate it for that reason. So I'm gonna put it on the wish list. It's free. It's English only. I probably won't be very nice about it, but basically anything from Digipin, since that is a known video game development college, and it's only that's like the only thing they really teach, I think deserves something to look at if I get around to doing it. I may never get around to covering all their student projects. Next we have Mosh Pit, which is the exact same situation. It's from Digipin. I would say this at least looks a little bit different. It looks like it's a multiplayer, player versus player game. Yeah, it does. It is multiplayer only. So I can't cover this one. It also has a third-party EULA, which is weird. So it's kind of like a Smash Brothers game. And the concept's not bad, actually, that you would get into a mosh pit and you would start fighting each other, or bands would fight against other bands, or it doesn't even look like you might be fighting each other. You might be fighting other players, or you might be fighting together instead of fighting against each other and fighting AIs. The animation for Mosh Pit in particular looks rather good for a student project. But it's multiplayer only, so I can't cover it. Next we have a game on Steam called Vectrix, which looks like it is just a vector-based game of some sort. It looks a lot like Asteroids. I think it plays a little bit different than that, but not much. This is also a Digipin game. Is it single player? Yes. So I'll add it to the wish list, but I really would rip it a new one. So quite a swing there between a student project that looks awful and a student project that looks really, really good. Both being released at the same time, basically. And I find it personally a little weird that they release it around the time that a semester would be starting, not really around the time a semester would be ending. But whatever. I mean, that might just be that's the time the professors have time to fill out the forms and have the budget to spend $100 to do Steam Direct.
Converting stored energy. Converting stored energy.
Let's do this. So I guess reset the counter here. We have a game tag sexual content called Dance Girl Swimwear, which is probably pre-made assets all over the place with them dancing around. This honestly is not as bad as a lot of the other low effort anime games we've seen that are just selling on the fact that they're tagged nudity and sexual content. This is $1.10 discounted. English, Japanese, and Chinese. It's probably a Chinese developer that made this. So the counter, as far as the last game we've seen tagged with nudity and sexual content, is reset. Although the problem we keep seeing with Valve in particular is that they'll let this kind of garbage on, fine, but they won't let visual novels on, and maybe that's because the specific visual novels they're not letting on really do have something that is objectionable or illegal, or maybe it's just because Valve is got some weird rules they're implementing or some real agenda they're pushing. There was yet another story of a visual novel being told it probably wouldn't get approved, I think was how it boiled down to, on Steam, even if it censored out some elements, but half the time I'm not even sure I believe that. We have yet to hear a story in a while, at least in at least 9 months now, I would say. We haven't heard a story of an actual game actually being denied on Steam, but we have heard a lot of stories of we were told that we had to censor this, or we were given instructions that led us to believe that we wouldn't get improved, or we've seen so many other stories of other people claiming that they were not approved that we didn't even try to submit themselves. Anyways, moving on, we have Guardian Legend, which is an RPG Maker game. Some of these newer RPG Maker games don't look terrible. In fact, one of the animes that is airing right now, Shield Hero, is using RPG Maker MV to make a mobile game. This is $1.99 English and Chinese. It's still just an RPG Maker game, though I still wouldn't want to play it. But this is the level of quality I would like to kind of see, which is closer to like a Super NES game than a lot of the NES RPG clones we've seen out there, where the graphics definitely feel like they're a generation behind where you should be, even if you were making a nostalgic RPG game. Next, we have a game on Steam called Inside the Park VR, which is a VR baseball game. I believe this is designed to create confusion, though, because there's a series called Outside the Park, OOTP, Outside of the Park, that I believe also has a VR game. This is $19.99. So it feels like they've intentionally named themselves to confuse things, and while this looks alright, it doesn't look great. Let's see if I can find it. OOTP. Let's see. Outside the park.
Let me think.
Am I misspelling something? No, I'm not finding anything called Outside the Park, but I swear there was something called Outside the Park. I don't think I'm dreaming that up. Well, with the information I can work with, Inside the Park VR looks good enough, I guess, where I think it's worth giving it a follow. It's a VR game for $20, so it's priced right. There's no discount. It's English with full audio, allegedly. So I'll put it on the follow list, see if people like it. If people like it, I'll keep it on the follow list, but there's nothing else I could really do. Gamma Citra had the same article. This fall's Mac OS update ends 32-bit app support, so no need to cover that again. We have a game here on Steam called Necker, or Nikor. It's like Nico, or like trying to say Japanese for cat and parkour mixed together. And that's exactly what it is. It's the low effort game taking parkour and taking a hideous anthropomorphic cat design. If you were gonna have a cat play a parkour game, you better make that cat look like a regular cat. And if you can make a cat look graceful and act gracefully at all times in jumping from platform to platform, that would be amazing. But that's not likely to happen. Gamatsu has an article. The Yakuza series general director shows additional tidbits on Yakuza Like a Dragon battle system. You can read that if you're interested. I think anybody anybody that wants to play any of the Yakuza games can do that. We've broken our streak, but I'll play a couple more games. We're going a little long here too, and we'll wrap up. TechRaptor has an article. The former WWE superstar Dave Batista is joining Gears 5. I never know if Dave Batista is actually in the WWE or not. Apparently Chris Jericho actually lost one of the WWE belts, or got it stolen from him and was robbed from it. I didn't read the full story. Having Dave Batista at Gears of War kind of makes sense, but it is stunt casting to say the least. So I imagine he won't have a lot to say. I don't think he's a very good talker. I don't think he ever was a good talker.
Is someone injured?
Gamasutra has a listing here. Get a job, join Activision as a producer. So if you want to work for Activision Blizzard in Santa Monica, California, as they're losing talent left and right, they're clearly looking for a producer. What they're producing, who knows? But probably isn't going to be as good as some of their previous games they've made. Gamasutra has an article here. Trine 4 publisher Amodius Games has acquired the Brazilian studio called The Balance for whatever little bit that's useful. I don't know if I would want to own a Brazilian studio just because of the potential danger of instability in the areas. Like, most people don't want to do business in even the UK due to Brexit and the instability around that. TechRaptor has an article. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair is out this October, which I keep forgetting this exists. It'll be available for the PC for $29.99. I think before I got around to playing any of the Yooka-Laylee games, I probably would want to play the that A Hat in Time game. Here's the game on Steam though, so I might as well just put it on the fall list. Coming October 8th.
Let me think.
Doesn't look terrible. We definitely need more 2.5D platformers and just kid platforming games in general. Gamasutra has an article here. Video game deep cuts control the knights on bikes with chains. This is a blog talking about knights on bikes, which I believe came out and nobody even really mentioned it. That was the Double Fine game that clearly is just getting put out to be a spiritual successor to the I want to say Candy Crush, but that's not the name of it.
Follow the rules.
Well, I can't remember the name, but Double Fine made Costume Quest and Costume Quest 2. That's the name of it. Double Fine made those games. They sold pretty well as kids' first RPG style games. Knights and Bikes are kind of a spiritual successor and an improvement on that concept. Alright, I think we need to do something different now because we're just losing and it's taking too long. So let's just back out and see if we can get at least 10 minutes of grinding through games on Steam. Here we have a game called Delta Blade 2700. It's another Digipin game. It looks like it's a player versus player, ninjas fighting each other, so multiplayer only. Because of that, I just wanted to highlight it. It's not going to go on the fall list though. Particularly trying to get 4 people to play it would be ridiculous. Gamatsu has Metabots S Unlimited Nova trailer. Pre-registration is now available in Japan. Metabots coming back. Very surprised about that. Although maybe Metabots never went anywhere in Japan. It'll be interesting to see if this comes to the West, so particularly since it's a mobile phone game. Because you could translate it and release it pretty cheaply if it's just a mobile phone game versus having to put it on consoles. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Kimco announces its Tokyo Game Show 2019 lineup. Let's see. Tokyo Game Show happens between September 12th and 15th, so we don't get much of a reprieve from PAX West until the next big event happens. They're going to be, Kimco, I don't think is a big developer of games, so that's Super Street Racer, Super Street the Game, 2 console RPGs, a new adventure game, a new simulation RPG, and all sorts of other information. Yeah, I don't know how many Kimco games actually make it to the West, if any. Don't need to read that article. See, here we have a troll game on Steam called Pension Day. Don't have to look any further than this first video and see it's 99 cents in English full audio. Like, we don't have to do a deep dive to see this as a troll game. Which means I still am not to the curated content. Next we have a game on Steam called Wally and the Fantastic Predators, where it seems like you're running around possibly faster than you could legitimately control a character. Screenshot wise, this looks like it's a top-down bullet hell shooter game with dark screenshot syndrome. $13.49 discounted, puts it out of a price range that interests me. Interesting that they say it's like Torchlight, English only. I'm gonna be super generous and put this on the follow list just to see if maybe there's something I'm missing here, but this doesn't particularly look like the top-down twin-stick shooter game I would want to play. If there ever is going to be a top-down twin-stick shooter game I'd want to play. But I'll let Mob Rule make that decision for me. Next we have God or Evil Beta, which this looks like it's probably a cheap Chinese RPG. If I was to guess. English is not supported, 99 cents. Chinese only, yep. That's exactly what I expected. We talked about this a minute ago. RPG maker MV made game The Rising of Shield Hero Relive. The animation has been announced for PC. So The Rising of the Shield Hero Relive, the animation is the entire name of the game. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more. I could go into a deeper, my understanding of The Rising of the Shield Hero's story, but I haven't watched it, so it'd just be me repeating what I've heard other people say. Doesn't sound like it's a particularly great fantasy story by any means. Gamatsu has this article. SNK has announced a Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro Gear Spec Advanced Entertainment System. This is what it's going to look like. Assuming these are standard like Sanwa button sizes and maybe actual Sanwa buttons and controls, this would be a very nice looking fight stick to buy, depending on the price. My hope would be that they bring this out and it sells so poorly that you could get it very cheaply, even if you had to replace all the buttons on the control stick because they don't actually work well. Just the case itself would be probably molded and a lot better looking than anything you could 3D print. And if these are standard size, there's more than enough room here to put in several Raspberry Pis or even an entire computer, a mini ITX computer in under here, depending on how tall it is. So depending on the price, depending on how much space is, depending if it's at the right size, it's got the right format that I believe you should have for a fight game, although these buttons might be a little bit at an awkward curve for some people, so you may not like that. and I could see people not liking the color palette. It would have been nicer if it was all white on white or just all black on white buttons and control stick. But it looks interesting. I don't know if I really have enough time or energy to build another Raspberry Pi Retro Pi box though. I asked in the last stream where Playful Studios is. I looked it up. They are in McKinney, Texas, which is north of Dallas, which would put them in the rough general area of where Gearbox is. So North Dallas does seem to be this hub of Texas-based video game companies, although I would argue maybe not enough video game companies that it makes sense to move there. If you're trying to look for a career in video game development, you would still probably do a lot better to go to Redmond, Washington, or LA, or California, wherever, someplace in California. Well, let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Squirrel Jump. This looks like it's just a platformer with an infinitely spawning amount of enemies and nuts that you can collect. I don't think this game really does anything special or goes anywhere. I think it's just an infinite platformer. $2.54, English only. Yep. I believe that is the first game that I had curated, and some of these barely even have reason to be curated. Like this one, Reflasher, is a laser game. It's just been a while since we've seen a laser game, but in all reality, I would never want to put this on the follow list. It's a laser game by itself is not good enough to deserve to be purchased, even for 99 cents. There's better things you could do instead with laser games. Let's see. Next we have Lost Rose, which is apparently an adventure RPG game. This one caught my attention a little bit, but I think I am probably being a little generous too. So this might be a decent RPG that somebody's actually trying to make an effort on, or it might not be. It's $8.99 discounted, English only. And I know I'm just burning through these games, so we're not going to really look too much at the screenshots or anything like that. Next we have a game called Railed, which seems to be some form of a puzzle game. It feels a lot like Pipes, honestly. Yeah, it feels like Pipe Dream or Pipes, where you just have to put the rails in the right place to try to make a connecting path from the beginning to the exit. I'll give it a follow because there might be a game here. I'm going to say that a lot here. $4.49 discounted, English only, 22 achievements. Railed might have a game. Again, let's see if people actually purchase it and put their money where their mouth is and review it well. Next we have a game on Steam here called Catch a Duck, which seems like it's a hide and go seek while being chased style game while you're playing as a fox. It seems like it's a little bit of a mobile port. It seems like it is pretty random and repetitive in what you'd be doing. $3.99 discounted, English full audio. A lot of these games I had curated them just so I could say, yeah, this deserves to be shown, but it doesn't really deserve its own to be played. Next we have this game called Alucinod, I guess. This might be a Portal-esque puzzle platforming game, or just puzzle game. or it might just be a combination of assets. It's kind of hard to tell. This is another great example of a game that really would need reviews to see if it can even be worth your time. It's discounted to $13.49, English only, 5 achievements. The problem is you'll run into things like magnetic case closed, which really wasn't that good but looked good. So, or magnetic cage closed or something like that. So reviews are very important on some of these things. Next we have Lightmare Castle instead of Nightmare, and this animation looks really good, like more than you probably could get from an asset flip. But then the background looks pretty generic, so I don't know if there's a real game here or what. And I'm not seeing any gameplay, so I think probably looking at a cutscene on the video, and then it's just sending you into a horror game, and the horror game itself looks like it is just a castle. Put it on the follow list. $4.49 discounted the English full audio. Maybe they did a really good job on the intro and then a really bad job on the game, or maybe they're really trying. Once this comes out of early access, it might be a game worth playing. Maybe not. It's hard to tell. Like, basically impossible until somebody puts their money there. This is interesting. This game claims to be adults only by the ESRB, which, if that is the case, this is the first game I've ever seen on Steam with an ESRB rating of adults only for violence alone. It's mixed right now with, I believe, 74 reviews. So I think while this might have looked interesting, I think it kind of fails. And this feels like this is a cheap Chinese, like, visual novel thing. English and Chinese are the languages. $16.14. Yeah. So I think it's trying to sell itself as it's hyper violent, but really it doesn't look that violent. Really, if you were going to try to legitimately get an adults only rating from the ESRB, which I heavily suspect they didn't get, you would have to have a level of violence akin to physical torture, mutilation, stabbing, gouging. Like, you would have to do a lot to get over what is just a M-rated mature game where people get murdered and shot all the time. Next we have a game called Psychedelia of the Ashen Hawk, and then a bunch of Japanese letters that probably say the exact same thing. This is from Idea Factory. It's tagged sexual content. Looks like it's another visual novel character. Okay, I'm not sure I really like the soft animation style here, but I'll put it on the follow list. $29.99, so it probably is a rather good visual novel. Full Japanese audio, subtitles for Korean, Chinese, and English. Not 100% sure that this is a girl on girl scenario visual novel romances either. This might be guy on guy, or who knows. But yeah, on the long list of visual novels that might be in the top 10. Next we have a game on Steam called Astrologia Episode 1, which looks like it's a RPG that's trying to be something, but it kind of looks like a cheap Chinese RPG. The animation style doesn't fit the backgrounds. Being episodic is concerning, certainly, too. It's $4.99. And it says it's English full audio. It has a third-party end-user license agreement. Yeah, I don't see anything here that would make me want to play this game. See, I think what we'll do is we'll go to the point where I can see the Humble Bundle page. That way, then I'll know I'm kind of halfway through all of this backlog, and then we'll, on Friday, try to get more of the backlog. I bet also on Friday there's going to be very little news, like, unless some major things happen. Next, we have a game on Steam called Rescue Team 6. This is one of those city management games. I kind of want to be generous and put this on the fall list because I could see kids wanting to play as rescue teams and being interested in that. But on the other hand, I don't think kids would want to play this type of gameplay in which you're managing a city. It seems like it would get very hectic and frustrating rather quickly. It's $5.59. It's part of a whole bundle of Rescue Team games, so I suppose I could do more research, but I think when you look at the fact that it's English, German, Korean, and Russian as its languages, and the fact that there's this big bundle for $20 of games, these clearly aren't high quality games, and I don't see a real reason to go down that route and play something that's not particularly great just because it has a theme that is slightly interesting. That's where little kids get suckered all the time and their attention gets stolen, is by people saying, oh well, you like dogs, here's a terrible cartoon about dogs, or you like fire trucks, so here's a terrible cartoon about fire trucks. Alright. So, next game we have on Steam is called Princess Project. It's rated very positively. It's tagged sexual content and nudity. It's from Kagura Games. So, this doesn't look to me like it is a cheap, extremely low effort sex game. This is more the middle of the road. It's an RPG game with sexual elements, so there's some patch out there that probably makes these characters topless in some of the scenes. Not a lot, not really worth finding the patch or playing the game, but it does reset the clock a little bit on that thought. It's like we really so far are now just waiting to see when is the next direct visual novel going to be allowed that looks like it has particularly like young characters in particular. That would be the main thing, is we're looking for some game on Steam allowed that has characters that look like they're in school uniforms or look particularly younger than average, because that seems to be their main pet peeve. And if that was just how they were going to say the rules, that would be fine. This is $13.49. It's bundled with a Kokoro bundle. Doesn't seem like there's a mention of a patch, so it's just coming out completely uncensored. It's English and Chinese, so you know it's probably not the same as the Japanese version. But the other thing to take away from this, of course, is it's just basically an RPG Maker game. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Kawaii Dethu Desu, which certainly we're following a theme here. Now, this is mixed already, and that's a shame because this looks like an interesting idea. At least it's one of those games where you, I think, are going to mostly just be pressing a button for attacking left and attacking right, and you're going to get a ever-growing number of enemies attacking you. And then they've done it slightly differently, where you're on stage performing and rabid fans are attacking you. I don't think this game actually has any nudity or anything on there, so it's just gonna go with, sure, there's a belly here, there's a cleavage here, cleavage there, but that's pretty much where it goes. So there's probably would be moderately YouTube friendly, and it's only $3.59. So if this could just get, it doesn't have Japanese, interesting, language support. If this could just get reviewed well, which it isn't right now, if it plays well, then you've got a game here that's worth a 30-minute spotlight, I would say. But if it plays horribly, then the stick figure, one finger death punch game is what it's competing against, which is 100% overwhelmingly positive, not 100%. And some other styles of games might compare in the art style. So give it a follow. We'll hope to see if it can improve and get better reviews. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is at the base of it a bad game and nothing can fix that. Next we have a game on Steam here called Youth Feather, which is showing a lot of the backgrounds, which makes me suspect this is a Chinese visual novel. It's tagged nudity. I did not check to see if there was any nudity shown in the screenshots. Seems like they're getting better about not doing that. I think Steam finally put their finger down and explained that to people, and I think that's the right way to do things, but maybe there really should be some level of nudity allowed in adult game screenshots, because then it comes down to, is this censored? Because there's probably a small amount of people that don't want to play anything with black bars or blurring or censorship, whereas that's the legal requirement in Japan. Youth Feather is $1.94 and doesn't support English, it's Chinese only. So I will say though, this is a nice animation style for the people that are being shown. Seems like it's a game, esports themed kind of story. Bunch of gamer girls playing video games. Nice animation. They do seem like they're getting better. Next we have the Dark Pictures anthology Man of Medan. It seems like this is mixed. I don't know why it is though. It sounds like this would be the spiritual continuation of the previous Supermassive game, I believe. What was that? The Butterfly Effect or something? And I thought people would like this, but I've heard like no reviews of this from mainstream journalists, and I really haven't heard anybody else say anything about it. So apparently people didn't like it and left really quickly. Let's see what the most helpful negative review is. The game is enjoyable, but too short for the price you pay. It's like watching a horror movie that is 3.5 hours long with a below average story plot. Okay, so I'll recommend this game when it's $15 is what another person says. So it's, the complaint here is it's a $30 game when it should have been a $15 game. And yeah, I'll buy that. And I think the Dark Pictures anthology in general is just a different way of them saying this is going to be an episodic series of Telltale-esque horror games in which we're going to do really high resolution face scans, which honestly though, I would also argue, if I was to play the Man of Medan right now and had it for free and compare it to the Control, I would wonder if maybe the story that is told in Control might have been better told in something like this type of gameplay, where there's it's mostly dialogue and like maybe a few quick time events instead of scrapping in a first-person shooter element that you have to grind through for several hours. I probably would have been a lot happier with Control if it was a 10-hour shorter experience. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Akron, A-C-R-O-N, Attack of the Squirrel, which seems to be playable on mobile and VR, which seems like it is all over the place. It seems like you're attacking trees as a squirrel using a bunch of different abilities. Like, this is a highly polished trailer that's playing here. Be interesting to see how well the game actually plays. $19.99 is right in the right point for a VR game. It's multiplayer only, unfortunately, so that's insane. One player in VR supported by the Oculus Rift. So it's an asynchronous game, I guess. So one person's playing in VR, everybody else is playing on their cell phone against you. It looks really, really pretty. I will grant it that. But I don't see any way I could ever cover this game because it's multiplayer. The game that this developer made before this was the VR game Angry Bird VR Isle Pigs, which, yeah, is a much more reasonable game for me to even think about covering. Akron, unfortunately, too much demands, really. You have to have friends, which is a hard thing for a lot of people to get in the same place. You have to have VR headset. You have to be able to play VR headset in the same room as your friends without swinging around and hitting them in the head. Your friends have to have cell phones. It's just asking a lot of stuff to synchronize and a lot of setup that I imagine most people wouldn't bother going through. Anyways, next we have a game on Steam called Catch the Head, which I'm not sure. I mean, this looks like a troll game, but I want to give it like a chance. I want to give it a chance that it actually is just a cheesy, stupid game that actually is worth playing. Apparently tagged nudity, so you probably should be careful here. It seems like what you're doing is you're running around, platforming, trying to, I assume, actually catch a head, as playing as different demons. This game is $14.99, English full audio with a bunch of other language support. I'm being exceedingly generous today and putting it on the follow list when almost certainly it's not a game worth playing. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Le Forêt de Pago, La Vengeance du Dragon. The Fort of Pago, The Vengeance of the Dragon. I believe if my French/Italian is right. This looks interesting, but it's an odd language, to say the least. So, I don't know if this is a French port or Italian port of some kind of game that was made in China or something. It's $29.99. It's French only. So, yeah, it was French. Yeah, of course it's French. It says lay. It would be ill if it was Italian. I don't know what I'm thinking. Well, being French only, being an RPG, looking a lot like a lot of other cheap JRPG mobile games, this game can't go anywhere with me and probably won't go anywhere with most people. And then we have here Escape from Labyrinth on Steam, which is a dark screenshot horror game. $5.24 discounted, English and Russian, so I'll call that a low effort Russian game, not a troll game. Now I do see the Humble Bundle right now, just to be honest, but we're so close to the end, I think I can just power through this. Next we have a game on Steam called Voltron Cubes of Olkarion. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what the newest Netflix Voltron series is doing with the story. This looks to me like it's kind of a Puyo Puyo Tetris style game or Battle Tetris style game. I'll give it a follow because there might be some relevancy here. It's already rated positively. It's $17.99 discounted. That's way too expensive. English only with a third-party EULA, which that's asking too much too. So the game would really have to get down below $5 before I'd want to play something like that. And then I'd really have to think about, do I have any reason whatsoever that I would want to actually play a Voltron game. Next we have Chameleon Run Deluxe Edition, which I feel like I've seen Chameleon Run previous versions, so I'm not sure I really would want to play that. Actually, I'm pretty certain I would never want to play this because this would just drive me crazy. Having to press a button to switch your color between pink and orange on an infinite runner that is at a weird, obscure angle. That's not really what I would want to do at all. This is $5.99. It's bundled with a bunch of other things from this publisher for $114. That is a big bundle. Bunch of language supports. I bet there are people out there that probably have played Chameleon Run and did like it, but I'm not 100% sure that's true. This next one is an interesting game concept, Hotel Rock and Roll, or R&R. So it's a VR game where you are supposed to break everything in the hotel and do as much damage and be like a rock and roller, or break everything in the area you're, but you can't like punch through glass because you'll hurt your hands and then die. It's in VR. It's $19.99. It's English full audio. So there's a concept here. I don't know if the concept makes sense though, or if this really is just getting down to what a lot of VR games are, which are that you inevitably are standing in one place throwing things, and at some point you end up in hell when you die, and then there's other items that you can get to blow things up and do damage, I guess. It seems like there's probably multiple locations, and the game just gets weirder and weirder. It's mostly positive right now, but not a lot. It's a VR game anyways though, so even if I was gonna, if I did see that it was worth buying, you need to think about how are your movements in VR going to mirror the movements in the game. Are you literally going to be breaking stuff around you in reality on accident playing a game like that? Anyways, moving on, we have a game with a bunch of Asian characters and then TFK faculty. This is, I suspect, a Chinese visual novel around fox creatures or anthropomorphic fox creatures. Seeing a lot of people, so it might not be a Chinese game. English is not supported. It's $2.99, which means it's really cheap. It's going under the name Sweet Animal. Under that, it is Chinese full audio, okay? So, yeah. Again, not terrible though. Chinese games do seem like they're getting better. Or maybe just because I curated out all the bad Chinese games, that might be a factor too. So I have to keep that in mind. Next we have a game on Steam called Necrotronic VR. And this video is insane. Let's see what the screenshots are though. It's a VR stand in one place shoot at demons, I believe, game. But it's got a lot of polish on the video, so people are really trying to sell it. This wasn't just shoved out there to die. Free to play VR game. Doesn't seem to have any in-app purchases in it. So who knows how they make any money whatsoever on this. So I'll put it on the follow list, I guess. A free to play VR game? Check out Necrotronic VR. Next we have a game on Steam called Monster Sanctuary. Let's see, a lot of videos. It seems like it's kind of a NES, Super NES style platformer with Metroidvania elements and monster taming. So there might be something here. Like the idea if you had like a Pokemon style game with Metroidvania elements, that would be interesting. Although in all honesty, the Pokemon games are a little bit Metroidvania because you need to get like a bike to go to one place, or you need to defeat a gym to go to another area. This is also from Team 17. $17.99. Lots of language supported. No discount. Rated very positively right now. So I'm gonna not put it on the wish list, but put it on the follow list. I want to sleep on it and think about it for a few months. Next we have Lighthouse of the Guiding Flames, which is another visual novel. See. Look at the screenshots, look at the art. Looks interesting, looks well done. Slightly different art styles in a few cutaways, which I don't have a problem with that, but I imagine some people might. $4.99 is rather cheap for a visual novel, and English and Russian is a little bit of a concern for a visual novel, but it is rated positively, so maybe this is one of those exceptions to the rule. Maybe there is a good English/Russian visual novel out there to be played amongst the hundreds of ones that are not worth playing by far. Next we have a game on Steam called Downstream VR Whitewater Kayaking. Seems like there is a split between your kayak paddles. I don't think that's how that works. I've never seen split kayak paddles before. Well, if you were playing this in VR, you'd be sitting down, so there might be some smart move there, and apparently you can also use your paddles to use as a wind sail or to grapple ledges and pull yourself forward in this race. So it's not 100% accurate. $24.99 is really overpriced though for the level of graphics I'm seeing. This needed to be really hyper realistic, and the water effects needed to look a lot better than what they do for that price. And English only, 10 achievements. Yeah, this is another example of a game that's VR, so I wouldn't buy it anyways, but even if I was going to buy it, it's pricing itself too high even for a VR game, considering you probably would only want to play this for maybe an hour before taking a break, and I can imagine coming back and playing this once a month or so, particularly if you're into whitewater kayaking. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't ever come back to it after 2 or 3 times. Next, we have a game on Steam called Renzo Racer, and unfortunately it's already mixed, so I'm not going to put it on the follow list. It looks like another attempt at a Mario Kart clone. It doesn't look terrible by any means, but clearly it plays terribly, and that's often the problem with these Mario Kart clones, is that they look fine but then play terribly. $4.99 puts it a little too cheap. It does have VR support, but it doesn't seem like it's required. We could see the most helpful negative review. Let's see. Here's a review over here. Do not waste your money on this. It's bad and on so many details. Can't control your driver. Every time has a negative effect because of how poorly the game is designed. So yeah, it's just the game does not play well. So Renzo Racer not making it to the fall list. That's a shame. Next, we have a game on Steam called Summer Meetings. Tag sexual content. Visual novel, I guess. Bikini girls. This art style's kind of simplistic, but I could dig it too. You know, this feels like a 90s art style where it's basically a straight line on the elbows and arms there. It's just barely anything on the face as far as detail, barely any detail on the hair, barely anything on the eyes, eyebrows, things like that. Very simplistic art style, but that can work too. Let's see, this is $9.99, which is a little cheap for a visual novel. It's English and Polish, which is weird. So I kind of have to put this on the follow list just because it's Polish, because I would really like to see what a Polish visual novel turns into. And maybe this is the Polish art style if you would extract what a traditional Polish artist would have learned and drawn to and apply that to a modern sentimentality of art styles. Well, this next game is definitely not Polish. Crystar, the game that I believe was censored in the trailer a little bit, but I don't think by much. Crystar from Spike Chunsoft, rated very positively. A character that is like this suicide analogy, and every time she cries she gets more powerful, and like, yeah, here's that trailer. She's just crying. $59.99. English full audio, Japanese full audio, Korean and Chinese subtitled. There's several uniforms and outfits you can buy. It's gonna be really, really hard to justify paying this price. I would never buy this, and I don't think I would ever buy these bundles either. But the bundles are pretty cheaply priced. It's just a base game that's expensive. It's a JRPG. It might be the next big JRPG. It is going with that Gothic Lolita style of art and storytelling, so it's going to be dark and depressive. I guess it goes to the wish list now. There's more than enough reviews already saying it's good, but major sale. It would have to be on major sale. Also, take note that Crystar is a game that really should have gotten some coverage from the mainstream video game media, and it absolutely won't. I guarantee you, nobody will quick look it, nobody will mention it, nobody will say anything about it from the West. Meanwhile, in the East, there will probably be plenty of reviews about it. Next game we have is called Pirates Outlaws, which looks like it is a card-based battler using pirate themes, like Slay the Spire, except for with pirates. I think that's cool. I think that's a cool idea. It's 19 positive already. It's early access. It'll go to the fall list. $19.99. Bunch of language supported. It's from the publisher BlueStacks, which BlueStacks hasn't published anything else on Steam, but I believe BlueStacks, unless I'm misreading what that says there, I believe BlueStacks is the developer of the Android emulator BlueStacks, unless I'm wrong. So maybe this is a Android game that is being emulated, or maybe BlueStacks is expanding what they do. Next we have a game on Steam called Hookbots, which is a player versus player game with robots that can hook on rings and fight each other. It's nicely designed. Unfortunately, it's one of these classes of games that's player versus player that I would never be able to play. $14.99. Single player, local multiplayer, local co-op, no online multiplayer. English, Spanish, French, and Spain and Spanish Latin America. Yeah, I don't think you'd have much entertainment on a game like this though as a single player. It says single player, but I don't really believe that. Okay, instead of trying to power through here, I think I'll just wrap up this right now. That leaves me, I would say, roughly 20 games to deal with on Friday of curated quality, and we've been going an hour and 17 minutes long on this third recording. We haven't been playing Hearthstone for a while. So this is a good point to end the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.